What's up, you guys? So we are back with Mind, Money, Muscle podcast. Today we have our guest with us, Mr. Dusty Hanshaw, a professional IFBB bodybuilder, coach, been in the fitness industry for a very long time, sponsored athlete, all that good stuff. Hey, what's up, Dusty? How are you
Very
doing?
good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Dusty, I feel like you wear so many hats. Yeah, I don't even know what to call you anymore. Pro bodybuilder, coach, entrepreneur, dog dad, human
Con-
dad. Yeah, I don't even know what to call you anymore.
Confused.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know what pronouns to use almost with you at the moment. So, yeah, brother, how have you been? I know it's been a while since we kind of talked. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and give us just like a quick brief of what you do, and how
Who
you
you
got,
are?
yeah, go for it.
Easy enough, easy enough. So, um, the base of it all is obviously bodybuilding, but I got started in bodybuilding oof, 23 years ago indirectly in the sports supplement industry. So, working at a store, while I was working at a supplement store, I ended up getting into bodybuilding myself, and then eventually ended up opening a training studio. Then I ended up going back and buying the stores I used to work for. Bodybuilding kept going along those times. Became a sponsored athlete, started traveling the world while I owned the business. Eventually decided it was time to decide if I wanted to be a half-assed business owner and a half-assed bodybuilder, if I wanted to do one of them very well. So I decided at that point I could do business anytime. So stepped away from the business, sold my 5 stores, went full time in bodybuilding, traveled, did the whole thing, and still kind of cranking along with that. Now I do online training, and I've got into some more like online life coaching type stuff now as well. And I mean that's really it. Nothing too crazy. I mean anything else is just the basic that people all do, tinkering around with investing in real estate and all that stuff.
Good, right on, right on. So with us doing the whole Mind, Money, Muscle podcast, we figured who better to bring on than you, because there's something about you that I always found very interesting and cool because you're one of those anomalies in the bodybuilding industry where you've become very successful in bodybuilding without necessarily competing all the
Right.
time and being a top tier
But
bodybuilder
we're
at
relying on that income.
yes, at the Olympia level to bring you in sponsorships and for the prize money or whatnot, even though it's not that much in bodybuilding, but still you found a way to kind of be in the industry for, let's call it, 20 plus years, right? And you've made a living out of it. And that's something that just is very interesting to me. So can you maybe touch on um what did you specifically do outside of competing at on a pro bodybuilding stage to create a brand for yourself, an income for yourself, or just create a life for yourself like you did?
Well, I think the first thing that most people lack is self-awareness, particularly in bodybuilding. So when I got into bodybuilding competitively, I understood that that wasn't going to take me very far. I mean, genetically, I just do not have what it takes to be a top 5 guy in the world. And realistically, it's that top 5 or so that are making all the stage money. As you know, from competing, to prepare for a show, to travel, to hire a coach, to do the food, the supplements, on and on and on, you're going to be thousands deep into a prep. And I always thought it was funny, anyways. Even if you are a good pro, unless you're a great pro, unless you're winning Arnold Classics and those shows, the the first place prize is 10 grand. Well, it's
Yeah.
going to cost you 7 to get ready and travel, and your wife's going to want to come, and maybe you got your kids coming, and it's like you could win and walk away with nothing but the title. Um, which for me honestly wasn't even that wasn't in the cards, is my point. So I took a step back, just looked at the industry and said, okay, where's the world going? What can I do to to be in the sport, to make a living at this, knowing full well that it won't be from cash and checks on stage. And that's when I started getting into just, I guess it was before it was a thing, but being an influencer, just getting out there, letting people see my personality, what I do, putting videos up of training. And this was back, I mean, these were message boards, YouTube, that kind of stuff. And then it slowly became Facebook, and then Instagram came, and on down the line. So uh, it was just an early on thing that people are doing now. But the big, I guess, thing where I got fortunate and even a little bit lucky was when we started doing it, it wasn't really like, oh, I'm going to go be an influencer. That wasn't a thing. So I just recorded myself being myself, training, going out, doing the things I do, and put it out there. And it started to click, started to get a following. And fortunately, that got some attention of some companies and they started paying.
Right on.
I think that's how I first found out about you personally, was watching your deadlift videos, your clanging and banging, like you're rowing the 6 plates, 5 plates, barbell rows. It was so intense, it was so entertaining to watch, so different from what everyone else was doing. That's how I first started watching you and following along, and yeah, became a fan.
I think the first video I ever saw Dusty doing was like a Costco run or something like that, like a bodybuilder Costco run. And I was like, I like this. I kid you not, I think I was in prep at that time, and I literally binge watched like hours of just the most random shit you used to do on YouTube.
Yeah.
And
I think that was the key though, was just going out there and just doing your thing and kind of letting things roll. And nowadays, people come into the sport or into social media with the goal of like, I'm going to make a name for myself, and then I'm going to create a facade for who I am. And at the end of the day, that's why most people fall short. It's you have to be what you actually are.
yeah,
And the the world, the market decides if what you are is what they want. There's no way around that. But I think sadly, a lot of people are trying to do is, what's working for someone else, let me mimic that and hopefully it'll work for me. It's just not how it works, you know. So it's like sales. You have to take a
yeah,
step back and say, what is a problem that I can be the solution to? So whether it's educating or, just it could be purely entertainment, it could be humor, it could be whatever it is, but you got to fill that void and figure out how you can do that. And that's how you can kind of build a name, or at least that's how I built a name in this industry. So, it was, there was never any confusion that there would be money made on stages. I think that's where a lot of people miss, is they're chasing a goal that's not for them,
yeah.
and it's just not going to work.
So, right. But you also mentioned that like people come into this, they say that they want to be an influencer, they want to be in the fitness space, but outside of being on social media, like you mentioned, what is there else to do to be successful in this world now? Because I feel like that's one of the only ways to be successful now is social media and fitness.
Well, I mean, the thing is there's a million other ways.
Hmm.
What if you don't have a great personality for fitness? What if you don't have, you know, you don't know anything no one else knows, so you don't have anything to bring to
Yeah.
the table, and you don't have a great physique? Okay, well, does that mean you're out of this industry? Well, no. I mean, can you can you go into sales for supplement companies? I mean, there are ways to get in the game. It's something that people kind of miss on. Again, it's knowing who you are. Because, for example, if I want to say I love the NBA, well, guys, I'm 5'10" and white. Not gonna go too well for me. And I'm terrible at basketball. It's literally the only game I'm terrible at. But if I love basketball and I can't play in the NBA, I can't play. Does that mean there's no space for me in NBA basketball? I disagree. So you think outside the box. What can I do? Can I open up a marketing agency? Can I become an agent? What are my talents for that'll put me in the industry I want to do? Because I'm a pretty firm believer in chasing passion, and money follows.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people chase money and either don't get it, so they're unsatisfied, or do get it and they're still unsatisfied, because not everyone is money motivated. They think they are.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks they're money motivated. And there's a difference between being money motivated and wanting money. Everybody wants money. That's simple. If I say I'll give you $1 million, like, I'll take it. Even if you had 10 million, you'll take another one. But people think that that'll be enough to get them out of bed and feel like they're living a life that's rewarding.
Hmm.
And you could end up with a ton of cash in the bank and still hate your life because you didn't line it up with passion. You know what I mean? So That's why I really think you should look at the things you're passionate about and then figure out your space. How can I get in there? And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if you can't figure that out, then you're not the guy. I mean, I can figure
Yeah.
any industry out and say, okay, how do I want to get in? Where do I fit in? What are my talents? And work my way in. The other problem is everyone's in a hurry. My first supplement, I didn't want to cut a contract, but my first supplement
Yeah.
deal was supplements. And then 6 months in, we went up to 500 whole dollars a month, you
Yeah.
know? But then it was 1,500, then it was 3,000, then it was 4,500, then it was 6,500. And that's when things got growing. You know what I mean? And that's just one company, one avenue. Then you're like, well, wait a minute, if I'm doing well with this, does anyone else want my service? Is there a belt company that wants to work with me? Is there an equipment company? And you can start to expand off of that further, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that that's the part where people miss. It's the same with, I mean, you do coaching. Like, somebody says, I want to be a coach. And then they put their information out there and then they go, why isn't this working?
Yeah.
I, I don't know you. It doesn't mean you're not phenomenal. But I mean, if you have the cure for cancer and you don't know how to get that information out, you have nothing.
That
You know what
is
I mean?
that's very true. I think how you mentioned that, um, if you like basketball, there's not always, uh, you know, you have to know your place, right?
Hmm.
But in bodybuilding, I've noticed, or in fitness in general, I think we are in the only industry, sport, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, organized activity, where people come in and they automatically think that they can become a pro within a year or two. Like it's the only industry that like you're not gonna go you're not gonna start playing basketball and you're gonna be like, I'm gonna be in the NBA in 2 years.
Right.
Okay? And in our industry, we see this all the time where somebody does, follows a plan for 6 months and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I'm about to be an IBB pro in 6 months. So
Hmm.
I think there's also, we're in a weird like spot in this industry at the moment where there's so many people coming in, getting funneled in, and everybody's a coach and everybody's, on a supplement brand and everybody's doing this and everybody's doing that and everybody's an influencer and everybody's nationally qualified 17 times. So I think the hard part is it's so saturated now. And I think where a
Hmm.
lot of people struggle is finding that like, all right, well, what sets you apart from everybody freaking else that is, all over everybody's feeds on all the social medias, YouTube's, Instagrams, Facebooks, whatever.
Hmm.
It's filled. If you're in the industry, it's filled with coaches, it's filled with bodybuilders, it's filled with, influencers. But what sets you apart from everybody else? And I feel like
Well,
that's really hard to find.
well, that's the magic though, right? Like, let's look at classic physique for anybody who knows. Okay. The guy who took, let's just say the guys who took fourth, third, and second at the Olympia last year. Would you argue they're pretty damn good?
Incredibly fucking good.
Okay, so they're second, third, and fourth on the planet at what they do.
Yes.
Okay. Chris Bumstead is first. So his prize money was, I don't know, 20, 30,000 more.
Something stupid like that. Yeah.
More than them, I mean, more than
Yeah.
second. I think it was 50,000 or 75,000, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Chris Bumstead's a millionaire. It's not from the stage because Chris Bumstead is Chris Bumstead. Because
Yeah.
Chris Bumstead got himself so popular and he said, what else can I do? How can I remain me? I've known Chris for years. He is the exact same guy. So, when he decides to do posters and he's out in Vancouver and he's like, I have an idea. I'm going to hand deliver these to people and knock on their door. And then Chris Bumstead shows up at your door, who he's already your hero, and you're 17 years old and open your door and here he is handing you your poster and taking a picture of your family. It's like these are the things that separate people. Like when he did that last year, he was already loaded. He
Yeah.
doesn't need to get in a car and drive around Vancouver to give away posters, but
Yeah.
he understands the game. He understands what that does. It's the same thing when you go, when you go to booths, you have, if you're ever fortunate enough to work at a booth at any level, anytime you meet someone face to face, you have a chance to get a fan for life. It's
Yeah.
fine if you follow me online and I'm cool, but you follow 4,000 people online that you think are cool. How can I separate myself? What can I do? So when somebody walks up to me at a booth, my thought is not, oh, they're so lucky to see me. It's, hey, I'm Dusty. What's your name? Cool. Where you from? Okay. What are your goals? Like, how can I benefit you in
Mhm.
this 3-minute conversation? That is my thought process with every person. I am here to benefit you. What benefit do you want? You want small talk and a picture? Got it. You want advice on training? Got it. You want advice on supplements? Got it. Like, that's my job. So then they walk away, they're like, he cared, because
Mhm.
I do,
Yeah.
and these are the kind of things where people get opportunities. And, the first time I ever got to work a booth, it was like I said, I started that company for supplements. I got some good luck. I met the owner. We hit it off on a personal basis. I happened to mention, oh yeah, this is when I worked at the supplement store.
Yeah.
So they just come in, we hit it off. He comes back in the next day. He goes, I heard you were getting ready to do a show. I said, yeah. He's like, I'm going to the Arnold Classic in a couple of weeks, and I need an athlete to work the booth. Would you be willing to do that? And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, to give you guys that, I had not won a show yet,
Yeah.
not even a local show. So I was like, sure, absolutely. So, I go out to on a classic. We're staying in a hoopty hotel because he was just getting his company started. I call it the Blue Door Inn because literally it was one of those motels where the doors are outside of the building and you like
Hmm.
walk in from there. I could have got crack on the street if I needed to right there. Um, we shared part of a distributor's booth. So we literally had like a corner of a booth for our stuff. And I just worked my face off. And no one cared that I was there. They didn't know who I was, but I had my foot in the door.
Yeah.
Then we go to the gym. I need to take progress pictures for my coach. I asked him if he can take my pictures. Sure. I peel down. He's like, oh, you're in shape. I was like, yeah. And I wasn't very big yet or anything. I mean, I was big, but not pro bodybuilder big. And he's like, hey, do you think you'd be willing to do a photo shoot for me in a couple of weeks, after your show? Sure. Pay me $1,000. And he's like, all right, done. And this was the thing. So it just started to roll, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like, the point, without going any further with the story, because it doesn't matter, is people miss opportunities all the time. They don't even realize they're there. You know, how
Yeah.
you carry yourself every day matters. You don't know who the guy is at the grocery store. You don't know who anybody is. You know what I mean? So it's like, I really think people need to understand that when they're out and about,
Yeah.
because you could have a learning experience from someone. I mean, there's endless things that happen around us every day. And then people go, oh, so and so got lucky.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I had good fortune to be in that store at that time on that shift. There's plenty of things that were good, but every time someone gave me an inch, I showed value. And then it went further and further. And, when I ended my deal with the first company I had, I was with them all the way through getting my pro card, building my name. I mean, I think it was 7 years.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
when we decided, we were going to go separate ways, I sent 3 emails out to 3 companies asking about sponsorship. 3 companies responded back immediately and wanted to talk money. And
Wow.
again, it's because I created a resume of reputation.
Yeah.
People knew. They know that you work hard. They know, and they know your weaknesses too. Like, nobody was like, "Oh yeah, sign Dusty. He's going to win the Olympia." Like, there was no confusion about that. But it was, he works. He's got a good attitude, and no one has anything bad to say. We should bring him in.
Yeah.
And now it just keeps rolling on. And that's the other step, is if you do get in the door anywhere, let's just say it starts going really well, you can't change up on people. You can't become different than you were. So the kid that wanted to hustle his face off at the Arnold, sharing a little booth that no one knew his name, is me now with a line of people waiting to talk to me.
Yeah.
Like, if you need me to set up the booth, I will. They don't ask me to, but if I were to get the call from George when we're going to the UK this week, and if he said, "Hey, I need you to come down here. It's going to take like 5 hours to set up the booth," I'd be like, "Cool, on the way."
Yeah.
Like, that can't change. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I
100%.
see that at the best guys.
Yeah.
Jay Cutler. Guess who is always there when his booths are being set up?
Jay
Him,
Cutler. Yeah.
the whole time. Jay is worth millions. He does not even need to do this. Same guy. If I run into Jay now, I ran into him 15 years ago. Same guy. So I think people
Yeah.
need to really understand that is, luck comes from hard work.
Yeah. And then you just got to take your opportunities that luck brought you, and you got to make the
Mhm.
best of them. That is true. No, that's a very valid point. It's funny that you say that, because I think every interaction I've had with you in person was never just like, hey, what's up, fist bump, ever in my
Mhm.
life. It was always, hey, what's up, dude?
Hall of Famer, whatever you want to call him, and he kind of just shrugged me off, and I was just asking for a picture, and I bumped into him like out and about, you know, and
Right.
he was very, very rude, very disrespectful. So I didn't even want to take a picture with him after that, and it's just like, man, that's kind of shitty to look up to somebody and then to be treated that way. And then there's other people that know how much of an impact they play, how much of a meaning or moment that might be for somebody, and they're willing to give a few minutes, few seconds, whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just one of those things where I think what's interesting about success is that some people buy into it. Like, listen, this is temporary. Like, when I'm out of the industry, it'll be forgotten quickly. So I'm enjoying it as much as anyone else is. And it's funny, but I had a conversation. So last week was the Arnold, and I was talking to a client of mine, and it's first time meeting him, and we're talking, and I said, "Yeah," I said, "It's kind of crazy." I said, I got in this industry, and when I got into bodybuilding, the top guys were, Kevin Lebroni, Flex Wheeler, Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, all these guys. And I said, it's wild because you following them, and they're these guys you look up to
Yeah.
as bodybuilders, and now like I have all their phone numbers and their friends. And I was like, it's just kind of crazy how that happens. And he goes, "Yeah, I know what you mean." And I go, "Oh, who do you know?" And he's like, "You." And I'm like, "Oh." And it's funny because I think they feel the same way. Like, you're just you, and if you're not, there's something wrong with you. I mean, I didn't know Jay before he was Jay Cutler, but I find it hard to imagine he was much different than he is now. He's just a solid guy. Same with Kevin. It's one of those situations, and I think that's what makes it more fun. Like, this isn't about, oh, I want to be good to fans or anything like that, or I'm trying to make a mark. Like, how do you not wake up every day and go, this is what I do? Like, it's wild. And I mean, even you guys, we're doing this podcast. Like, you know, you- somebody wants any of us to get on a podcast to share our experience, our opinion, whatever it is, and you're not going to think that's awesome. I don't care if this podcast, I know you guys said it was newer. If 40 people watch it and we get through to one success, whatever time we spent, well worth it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that could be somebody who you guys, next thing you know, he's running your giant podcast because he knows people and you're connected, So I think people do that. My tie-in is that's what people do when they get on social media, right?
Yeah.
They're like, well, I only have 200 followers. Good. Treat your 200 followers like gods. Take care of them. Give them good information. Take your time. Answer their DMs. Do these things because when you get to 300, it's a lot. When you get to 600, it's more. The number doesn't matter. I mean, social media is so whacked now. I mean, I'm 10,000 less than I used to be. And I don't think that 10,000 people got sick of watching me do exactly what I always did. I don't even think about it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Just put out valuable content of yourself, being yourself. Anybody who needs anything from you will ask.
Yeah. No, that's that's very true. You mean that
Shoot, man! I get excited at the grocery store when a kid comes up to me and is like, "What do you eat? What's in your
Right.
cart?" Like it's like I
Yeah.
wouldn't. I get excited if somebody wants to ask me like, "Oh, what got you into bodybuilding?" What I don't know.
Yeah.
I get cheesy.
I know we're on a not a necessarily a time crunch here, but we want to cover a few more things with you, Dusty. So
Do you
um
think?
yeah, I know we're gonna take off the bodybuilder and the supplement hat. And I know Derek had some business questions for you as far as like what you do now, and what are you doing to set yourself up for, your when your Instagram followers hit 5, you know what I mean?
I think actually instead, hey Dusty, my name's Coach
Yeah.
Noel, by the way.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. I think actually a better point, and we were just talking about this about moving more towards like business and stuff away from bodybuilding centered podcasts, potentially. But I feel like you brought up a really, really, really good point in like the first minute when you were answering the question about what you do. You said, you became a professional bodybuilder and you went pretty far. And, you realize there's a difference between like a good bodybuilder who can make it into becoming a pro, but then you become pro and then what? You don't
Mhm.
just get paid. Like I work with multiple pro bodybuilders and they can barely afford their supplements.
Right.
What kind of made you realize that there's a line between like a good pro, a great pro, and then like your top 5 in the world? Like, how do you determine that? Because I'm sure a lot of our viewers, and I'm sure, maybe ourselves as well. I mean, I can say for myself, I'm sure you get the coaching inquiries like, hey, I'm going to be a future pro or I'm the next Mr. Olympia. I'm sure you get
Right.
where they say, I want to be a pro and they've never even followed diet.
Right.
What kind of made you realize that it was like, okay, this bodybuilding thing probably not going to go very far. It's not worth the time, the health, the risk, whatever, but I can crush it in business. What kind of was like that moment where you're like, shit, dude, let's switch gears?
Oh, Dusty, I need to hear this because I'm in a midlife crisis here.
I
Well,
already hit this point, so welcome to the team, Marcel. I'm done, bro.
I think for me it was a little bit different because I already did the business. So I was successful in owning nutrition stores. I already owned my own training studio. So things had already went well. So my split that took place was, to take it a little bit further back. I'm in Germany. I just had a 10-hour day at a booth. I get done, I eat a meal, I go to the gym, we train, we come back, I eat a meal, everyone goes to bed. We're pushing midnight or so. Got another 10-hour day tomorrow. I go back to my room and I log into my computers at work and I work because I have a business to run. And I'm doing that and I'm cranking away and it's fine. Like you guys know this. If you've anybody who's owned businesses knows sleep, it ain't always there for you. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. But it hit me one night when I was over there. The guys who are trying to make the most money as bodybuilders, not necessarily competitively, but make money as bodybuilders, they're over here working the booth, doing their training, eating their food, going to bed. I've added a full-time job on top of that. And not talking about like a little training where I can do it throughout the day. Like I'm literally figuring out my storage inventory, transferring, doing purchase orders, doing accounting. I'm up for hours.
Yeah.
And then I say, wait a minute. So I own 5 nutrition stores, and my competition's only thought in the nutrition industry is how do I beat Dusty? How do I make more money than him? They're not worried about training. They're not worried about getting in 6 meals a day. They're not in Germany right now, and they're not working at midnight until 4 a.m. So I'm thinking, okay, I've never been the best at anything I've ever done in my entire life, like the number one in the world. I don't think most people have. So it's pretty arrogant for me to think that I can give half of my effort into bodybuilding, half of my effort into business, and be one of the best and be competitive with either of those two things. That's pretty insulting to them. I mean, these guys are working. So I said, fine, I want to do the bodybuilding now because I can do business, that part of the business later. And I understood that for me, bodybuilding was marketing and, videos and different things and sponsorships. So I dove into that and gave it my full attention once I sold my stores. And actually, at one point, what caught me into building my training business again was I was making really good money with sponsorships, and I had a deal that was broken in the middle of it. So I literally lost all of my income in a day. And I was like, okay. I mean, I'd put some money aside, so I wasn't like screwed, but when you're making a good living and it's gone,
Yeah.
I'm like, So
It's a stressor.
But what was funny, and I think you guys can understand this if you've got a business mindset, I said, okay, how much was I making? All right, I know the number. How long will it take me to get it back? It took 6 weeks to be making the exact same amount of money I was making before. And then I said, okay, I'm never going to do that again. I'm not going to rely on sponsorship money to survive. So let me build up some other income streams that aren't necessarily owning retail, because that's a little extreme.
Yeah.
And that's when I got back into doing some online stuff and the training and those types of things, and then taking money from that and doing real estate. And I say real estate, I like to be very cautious. I'm not a real estate investor. I've bought a couple things. Big difference. I have people ask me real estate advice. I'm like, whoa, not me. Not me.
Yeah, just a couple down payments on a couple properties, right?
You confuse that. Yeah. I think that's people love to sound really big shoddy when they say things like that. That's like, no, it's just buying something and letting it go up in value. So, but yeah, I mean, that was it. And then, now that I'm in this, then you diversify again. It's like, oh, let's get the podcast going. Our podcast cranks. We make good money with that. We have sponsorships on that as well. And again, it's back to relationships. Ron and I obviously are sponsored by Mutant. We've both been with them. I mean, by the end of my contract, the two of us combined will be over 20 years with Mutant.
Jesus.
So, it's a long time. And what happens when we start a podcast? The owner calls after it gets kind of cranky and he goes, why haven't you guys asked me to sponsor your podcast? I'm like, I didn't know you'd want to. And I mean, have you heard it? We're a little off the hinges. And he's like, I love it. What are you thinking? And we literally just grabbed the number and said, we'd like this much. And he's like, done. And so they became like our main sponsor, and that was that. And, again, relationships built. I mean, Mutant is a family environment for us now.
Yeah.
I remember last year, I don't know when it was, but I signed a short-term contract with them when I came back after Condemned. I signed a 1-year deal. And I told Nikki, I'm like, man, like, I'm retired. I've been retired for a couple of years. I don't know how long they're going to care that I'm bodybuilding and lifting and doing these things. I was like, I hope I can provide enough value to keep this going, because it's a good separate income, and I have fun doing it. And so they said, hey, we're going to send you over your new contract. Do you have anything you want to change about it? And I was like, no, it's all good. And they're like, okay, cool. I hope you don't mind, but we sent it for 3 more years. And I was like, oh, okay. Like this is going better than I thought. And then we had a meeting, a few months later, and they're like, we don't have any intention of this ever ending, because we work with the company and grow it up. But, the to answer your question directly, it's once you get kind of rolling and you get things in a place where they're moving well, I've got to the point in life where I'm like, okay, what else can I do? I think people think they're a lot busier than they are. I like to do things, get to the point where I've got them under really good control, and I know how much time they take. And then I say, cool, now what else can I do? So our next thing, we're gonna actually probably open up a gym around here pretty soon. We'll see. It's going to be based on real estate and things like that. But and in that case, like, you come into another idea. I say, well, I can open a gym and that's cool, but what's really cool is to buy a building and then open a gym.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of our hope, is that opportunity will come into play. I'd much rather buy a building than just open a gym, but it might have to be in, one order or the other. But that's kind of our next goal for our house. And, our kids are into this. My youngest daughter's just started her NASM courses, and she's 16 and she's ready to go. I'm like, all right, let's do this.
Okay, send it, right? Let's get rolling with this. Derek, what was the original question? It was, when do you call it quits? From what I remember.
Yeah, it was basically like, when did you look in the mirror and say like, yeah, man, I don't think this bodybuilding thing. Did you just go like, yeah, it's not gonna cut it? Like,
Actually, I knew that when I started.
okay.
That was the
So,
difference, was, and I think that's where people get confused. Like,
Mhm.
I don't really know how, because we have the internet. Okay.
Mhm.
And it's really odd to me, because this is how I did it. I did a show, placed top 5, got 4th place in a big show. And then I said, okay, I'm not going to compete again until I can win an overall. So I started watching shows. At the time, you could just go on to muscodevelopment.com and go to the shows every week. And I just looked at the athletes and I was like, okay, can I hang with the top couple guys in these classes? And about a year and a half later, I was like, okay, I can win now. So I picked a show, dieted 16 weeks, won my first overall with first place votes all the way through. And, you win an overall, and that was the border stage, which is the big show. And I come back home, and I think it was 3 or 4 weeks later, it was nationals. And people are like, so you're going to go to nationals? I was like, no, those guys will kill me. And again, I'm like, do y'all not have an internet connection? Like, I know what that level is,
Yeah.
So I shut it down. Same thing. I just started going straight to the overall winner at every show. Every weekend, there'd be 3 or 4 shows. I'd look at all of them. And I said, okay, once I've watched enough of these that I feel like I would have beaten all of them, then I think I'm ready for the next level. And that's when I, chose to do my first national level show, which is junior nationals, and I won the super heavies. And then I went on to the USA's and I got 5th in my first pro qualifier. But I think what made that cool, that's a little different than now, is there were, I don't remember exactly how many, but I want to say like 20 something guys in that class. And the
Yeah.
top 12 all turned pro eventually.
Yeah.
So it was a stacked time,
All
But
right.
even then I looked in the mirror and I was like, okay, there's Jason Ha turning pro.
Mhm.
I will never beat him, and he will never be a top 5 guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that was the biggest thing, is I just never got confused with what it meant. Like, you see a guy like Phil Heath.
Mhm.
He does his first show. The guest poser is Jay Cutler. He goes, "Oh, kid, come with me.
Yeah.
We're gonna get you a sponsor. We're gonna do this."
Yeah.
Then he does junior nationals, wins an overall, goes to the USA's, wins the overall, does his first 2 pro shows, wins them both. Like, that's a guy born to bodybuild. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to ask someone if you're born to bodybuild. Just like I told you with content, like the you know the consumers will tell you if you're the best. Well, the judges will tell you.
Yeah.
Like, if you're
Well,
not smart enough to see it on your own. So, to answer your question, like, I always knew that it wasn't going to go anywhere. And when I decided to stop was just because I was like, okay, at this point, what do I have to do to get a little bit better? How long will it take? And does it move the needle at all? And it really doesn't. Like,
yeah.
if I got, let's be honest here. People, I love making up fake percentages just for fun, but it's like, if I got 10% better, which is
Yeah.
impossible at that stage of my career, I might be a 10th place guy at a small show. There's still no money, and there's a lot of things being invested, time and everything else. And I realized that again, back to that teeter point, I'm a better coach with my business of coaching when I'm not competing.
Always.
Because I don't care who you are, when you get in that last 4 weeks or something, it's time to get a little bit selfish. I don't have to do that right now. Like when I went to the Arnold last weekend, I worked 3 days. We have the team events, we got the, training, whatever we want to do. not a single client's check-in was later than it ever is. And some guys are like, I'm not going to bother you this week. And I'm like, what do you mean bother me? This is
Yeah.
my job.
You're
Send
paying
it.
me. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
paying me.
I will. And I appreciate that they're that cool and they want to say that, but no, I want to work. It's kind of fun. And I know you guys can get this, like you have a crazy time and then you get back. I mean, I'm fortunate that Nikki knows I'm a psychopath and I don't like to not work. So when we go on vacation, like we went to Dominican Republic last year for a week,
Mhm.
I never took a day off. I did all my client stuff in the morning. I just told them, hey, if you send in the afternoon, it won't be touched until tomorrow morning. I'd work 2 or 3 hours every morning and then we'd go enjoy. And that keeps me relaxed because I want to work. I want to take care of my people. And then when we go out, I can enjoy it. You know what I
You're
mean?
on top of it. It's
But
not sitting there in the
yeah,
back of your mind that you have, well, shit, man, I got 35 emails, 7 client check-ins. I got competitors getting ready. I don't know if they're good today. Like you're not
hmm
gonna first thing in the morning. So I do the same thing. I go on vacation the first like 2 to 3 hours to like sit down, respond to messages, make sure the staff is good to go, make sure the employees are good, make sure financials are good, emails been responded to, clients are good for the day, and then move on. Because if you
yep,
don't do that, you kind of feel like a piece of shit. You're like, I'm just neglecting my business if, I haven't responded to the people paying me to do what I love to do.
yeah,
It's a privilege to be able to coach. Like it's a privilege to be able to do what we do and have people that will give us money every month or, 6 month paid in fulls
hmm
just to be able to tell them to do what we love to do. And so I feel like I abuse that if I'm not staying on top of the client load and responding to clients daily. I'm sure you feel the
right.
same.
Oh yeah, no, it's fun too. That's the other thing is, I mean, you guys know this. You get relationships with people. I keep all of my stuff online.
Mhm.
Like when I say all, it's like 99.5%. Like every now and then I'll make a phone call, but I don't really like to because 2 minutes of email or 40 minutes of phone calls. It's
And then
it's
you
not
forget
a
what you say in the phone
yeah.
call. You don't have it
Yeah, I
written
mean,
down.
now
Yeah.
now I'm doing notes sent back to you like I work
Yeah.
at a giant company, but
No.
the minutes as they say. But it was one of those things where, you know, like you said, I look at it even more different. It's just you're trusting me with your goals. Like this is what you want to do. Whether you're a soccer mom just trying to get in shape, or you're getting ready for your wedding, you're getting ready for a show, like you could have hired anyone.
Yeah.
I have to take your goals as seriously, or in some cases, when they're new to it, I take it more seriously than they do until I can bring them on board. Get them to believe what I believe, see what I see, and it'll click through. But it's a ton of fun. Unfortunately for us, there's enough people coaching that don't do that. So when you just do what I consider to be the bare minimum, I mean, that's what you should do. You're a rock star.
Yeah.
You're a rock star for doing what you should do.
That's fucking
Yeah,
sad. That's sad when you
you know,
really break it down that way.
yeah.
I feel like all you have to do is just communicate. The biggest gripe that I get from clients that leave other coaches, especially like
hmm
well-known coaches, well, he ignored me or he didn't respond or, it was like 2 weeks before he sent me an email or he didn't update, he didn't listen to me. I feel like
hmm
cornerstone of coaching, like you just need a basic knowledge of how this works. And then if you want to be really, 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 really good and get really good results for your clients, communicate with them. Just be their friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's funny, but my wife and I, we talk a lot about the world, how people are,
Mhm.
and it's super corny, but we came to a mind-blowing conclusion is that that thing your parents teach you when you're a kid, which is, treat people how you want to be treated. That's literally the key to the universe. It's like, well, if I sent my email to my coach and it took him 4 days to respond, would I be happy? No. Okay, well, I won't do that. Same thing. You know, if Marcel texts me and says, "Hey, can you do this podcast?" How would I feel if I asked him to do my podcast and he just didn't answer? So even
Uh,
if I was going to say no, you answer. Like,
just so everyone knows that, yeah, Dusty has been asking me to be on his podcast for like half a year now, and I constantly say no. So that's why
I've been, but I was
uh,
your first fan. Just remember that.
he was my number one
But
fan.
it is funny though because it matters, and it's not a coincidence that the people who stay at the top in all things kind of have those ways of
Traits.
doing things. I mean, if I reach out, I mean, we had Rob Bailey on our show like when we first started it. or no, Dana. Sorry, I had Dana on the show. I think she was our third episode. We were terrible. And called Dana. We're friends. Said, hey, hi, I know you have nothing to do. Would you like to be on our podcast that we started yesterday? And she's like, absolutely. And came on, and I didn't know it was bad then, but I watched about 3 minutes of it a couple of weeks ago. I was like, whew.
We've come a long way.
She should have said no. But I mean, it's just one of those deals, and I think that between that and just realizing you're fortunate for wherever you're at, is key. When you have 2 clients, treat them that way, and when you have 20, treat them that way. And then also, as it grows, ask yourself, where's the point where I'm going to lose my customer service if I keep growing just me?
Yeah.
And that's an important thing, because if you get to that point, you're better off to raise your prices than to take on more people, because people can say no, but I think that that's an important line, is just understanding those things, because I know how much I can handle,
Yeah.
and I would never go past it, because then you lose your whole thing. It's like when you open businesses, the more you open, it starts to kind of water down. It's not the same quality business it was when it was one shop, so it's a fun game. All business is kind of the same, I found, in one way or another.
You should open with you keep hitting all these like motivational taglines without even knowing it. I'm like, Dusty should just open a fucking motivation Instagram now. When you got your 5 followers, when you're 90 years old, fucking motivational taglines all day from Dusty.
You know what's funny to me though, and we joke about that too, is because people who are going to be successful don't want to be motivated. Like, I pay attention to things like, if you put random quotes in your Instagram, I know you're just trying to get your shit together. Because people who have their shit together don't do that. We don't have to. Yeah, it's like, I don't, I'm actually doing, and if you love what you do, what do you mean motivation?
You don't have the time to find the quotes.
Well, not to mention, like, I get to do this. Whatever it is you do, if you're passionate about it, it's like, you don't need motivation to be a good teacher if you love teaching. You wake up every morning, you go, holy shit, I got what I wanted. And now I'm going to be the best at it. And I'm going to crank at it.
I'm getting paid to do this.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's the part that just blows my mind. It's the same with show preps. You guys know this. Somebody's like, oh, they're complaining. I'm like, I explained to somebody one time, they said, it's got to be really tough. I mean, you really suffered. And I'm like, well, yes, for a American with a decent financial situation and a house in Scottsdale, yeah, I suffered. But if you want me to break it down further for you and tell someone who's truly suffering about how hard it was for me to eat 40 ounces of chicken a day, 16 ounces of salmon, 16 ounces of egg whites. Like, you start listing up, this is like more food than these people have ever seen in a week. And I'm like, oh, poor me. I get to take a physique I was given, as far as genetics, money I have to choose to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to play out 1 second. I gotta turn that on.
He had enough of our shit.
Yeah, that's these guys. No, but my favorite line, honestly, you're saying, of all the stuff you kept saying, that he has so much motivational stuff, was the giving like 50-50 to something, 50-50 to business, 50 fitness to fitness and bodybuilding. How do you expect to be number one at either one? It's true. It's like,
I can either half-ass this or half-ass that, or I can. So
and you expect to be a top pro bodybuilder when you're not even. No, dude, that one hit home for me, because that's been like my story. I've never been fully synced into any of it. Like,
bro, I was having a midlife crisis before this podcast. Now I'm having a fucking end of life.
I was like tearing up. I was like, oh shit.
You gotta choose, Marcel. Are you gonna be business, or are you gonna be a bodybuilder now? What are you gonna do, bro?
I'm about to ask Dusty.
You walk away from that family. You be a bodybuilder. All bodybuilders.
You don't need a family. You just need Trent.
Pull a Dorian Yates. Go lock yourself in the dungeon.
I have a dungeon about 10 feet away, so.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm teasing.
Dusty's back. We were like, oh,
technical difficulties.
Enough of our shit.
I was like, I'm done. I'm done with my motivation. I got so motivated, I left the train.
Fuck, you
Um,
guys, no, you guys depressed me. All right. First of all, you shit on me by saying that you can't do business and you can't be a good bodybuilder at the same time. So I'm like, all right, well, he fucked my life up with that one. Then you guys mention if you post motivational quotes, you're a piece of shit and you don't know what you're doing. So you fucked me up with that one. Okay.
He just posted one, so he just did.
do you guys all feel like it's obvious that we went to his page before we met?
Oh, 100%.
The three of us went on your page. We're like, what else can we say?
Yeah.
No, but it's funny you said that because I want to make sure not for you. I don't give a shit if your feelings are hurt, but the people listening, you have to understand that what I mean by that was with my position and what I was doing, I wasn't going to be great. I'm a very one-track mind person. So it's like, when it's like a dog on a scent, like I'm moving forward, and it's one of those things where, back in the day I would be working and I'm on a project, I'm cranking away and I'll work 7 hours without stopping. And people go, oh, well, everybody does that. Well, not when you're bodybuilding, you're supposed to stop to eat,
That's true.
So it was really down to that. So, because here's what's tricky, and the reason I wanted to backpedal and make sure that this makes sense. The very first thing I will tell someone that's young or or getting started in life, I shouldn't say young, if they say I want to be a bodybuilder, I say, cool, get a great job. Because bodybuilding's expensive.
No.
Set yourself up first. Like, you need to be financially stable, emotionally stable, relationship stable. Do those things first, then let's start bodybuilding. And I know you guys have had this, but I've had someone reach out and they'll say, hey, I want to start working with you. And I'll say, okay. And then I'm like, here's the price. And they say, is there any way you can do less? I'm really tight. And I say, here's what I would suggest. Use the money for food. Because if you hire me, you can't afford to do what I'm going to ask you to do. So my information is useless. And there's plenty of information on the internet. I mean, I do Q&As where you can literally ask me anything you want. I've got guys that ask 10 questions each time. So you can do plenty with just the basics if you're at that point in life. When I started bodybuilding, not bodybuilding, but in the industry, I was making $8.50 an hour. Like, I couldn't have hired a coach back then. No way. I read magazines and forums and did the best I could until I was making a good enough living to hire someone.
Yeah. So it's funny because I think we had like half an episode that we did on that about how expensive competing is and how expensive it is to be a bodybuilder. And, because you got people all the time, like you said, like hustling and bustling you for $50 a month. And it's like, that 50, but if you don't have that $50 a month, you're not going to have $50 to do blood work or to get, good chicken at the store, or you're not going to have $50 to get a vial of gear. Cause let's face it,
Even that,
it all
you
costs
shouldn't
money.
you shouldn't be scraping by being bodybuilder. You shouldn't be spending your last dollars on your last cycle, on your last piece of meal. You should have enough money that you're comfortable enough if something happens, because life is gonna throw curveballs at you all the time. And if you're a stressed out bodybuilder and you can't keep life going, then you gotta be able to have some money saved up to respond to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, one more thing one of the two things that we want to touch on with you is like, me personally, what I wanted to know is, because I'm kind of not in a similar situation, but in a similar situation that maybe, that you had, where like you have a life event that kind of can change your outlook on a lot of things, right? So like, I'm about to, my wife's about to have another kid, right? So it's coming, and it's coming quick. It's here in like 8 weeks, right? So I'm having a midlife crisis here. I'm like, what do I do? Do I suck at bodybuilding? Do I need to quit bodybuilding and just, continue to lift weights and not worry about the competing part? Cause I don't want to, it's like that is changing my outlook on something that I thought was my end all be all for my entire, adult life, basically, which was bodybuilding. That was my end all be all always. And now it's like something happened, and that my view is like, I don't know what to do here. I don't know what the right call to do is here, because I want to be, be there for my family, and I want to be a good dad, but I don't know. So that's kind of the part that I'm struggling with, right? And I know you had a few years ago an event that probably, changed your life, which is your, when you were in a hospital in a freaking coma for, I don't remember how long it was like 2 weeks or something like that. And I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sure
a month.
a month, yeah. So what changed. What changed you when you woke up from that coma? Did anything change, or were you the same person? Like your outlook on everything that you've done before? Like you're like,
No, I think if that doesn't change you, there's something, either you were a much better man than I was when you went in,
yeah,
or there's something wrong with you.
yeah,
Because the change for me, to keep it simple, and I try my best to get people to have this change without the near life ending
yeah,
experience, is the realization that like every day, every moment is valuable. You know, we love to talk about tomorrow and down the line and make plans and these things, and not pay attention to the most simple things like the phone. I'd usually pick it up, but I'm talking about it for once. Like it's I live on my phone. Okay. I do my work on my phone. I'm on the phone all the time. But we are obsessed with things that distract us from something simple. Like I wonder sometimes, like I'll ask Nikki, I'm like, I wonder how many people that are driving today realize how nice it is and they should roll their windows down. Because I don't miss that. I'll walk out in the morning when it's like, when spring was starting to come here and it was a little like crisp. I'm like, man, you can really, really breathe the air right now. Like, it's awesome. And I notice all of those types of things now, because when you realize that you almost didn't get to notice any of them again, you pay a lot more attention,
You appreciate them.
yeah. And I think that that's important to do, because anybody who's watching this, or you guys, we're goal oriented people. Okay. So like I said, dog on a scent, make sure you're paying attention to what's happening while you're chasing down the goal. Make sure you're present in moments, um, and just enjoy every little thing is what I took away from it. But you kind of asked me two questions at one time, so I'm
yeah,
faltering back to the one that I think you need to get hit more,
yeah,
because it's something that's important for a lot of people. Is first off, my knee jerk opinion is you can't take care of anyone if you're not taking care of yourself. So bodybuilding is very, very important to how you feel, what you do, those types of things. So I wouldn't quit bodybuilding if I was you, but I would be aware that, being straight, you're not going to make a career out of professional bodybuilding, just like I wasn't. Okay. But it can be a hobby that helps pay your bills, because you're the fact that you live bodybuilding and know what you're doing and have learned and have hired coaches and done these things makes you a more valuable coach. You're still doing all the coaching, right?
yeah, of course, yeah,
Yeah. So that's still all cranking along. Like there's a value there. And I work with some people, like I said, on business and things like that. And one thing I had a breakthrough with a guy recently was he realized that it's not selfish. Dogs. I don't know how to mute this without touching my screen. But it's not selfish for him to go on the road for 3 days to do his job, because it brings him something. It
yeah,
brings the family money. And when he comes home, he's extremely present. And that's the key for you, is like you go to the gym. I think people want to make bodybuilding this bigger thing than it is. You make food. If you meal prep, 2 hours. You
yeah,
could do it with your wife. Your kids can be right there. You can be talking to them, doing the whole thing. How long does it take to eat a meal? 10 minutes. They don't care.
yeah,
So you eat 6 times a day. Who cares? You go to the gym. It's an hour and a half. No big deal. None of those things have to take away from your family, and they can be very valuable to your business. So
right,
that to me means there's no reason not to. And yeah, you're spending some money doing it, but you're making more from bodybuilding through your
yes,
coaching than you're spending. So to me, that's not a huge problem. Now, obviously, it's going to take a step back as things kind of,
yeah,
you know, regulate in your household and things like that. But I don't think it's one of those things where you have to be done, because in my opinion, when I was done with bodybuilding, it wasn't like oh no, I'm not good enough. It was, I'm good. I've done enough. And
yeah,
now I got, Nikki's getting ready for a show, and we all know this. Somebody starts getting ready around you, especially in your house, and they're cranking and you're training with them. If that itch was there at all, I'd be scratching it. I
yeah,
don't, I'm like, I got my cheerleader pom poms on. I'm telling her she's killing it. And somebody's like, oh, you think about getting back into competing? I'm like, are you crazy? I don't ever want to be full for the rest of my life, because I do not miss growing. I mean, I hang out like I've actually dieted down a little bit. So I'm like, I was 272 this morning. I feel like a ninja. I don't have to eat very much. Like it's super comfortable. I'm like, I don't ever want to be any of those things anymore, you know? So you'll know when you're done. But my point to that is I would have hated to have felt like I needed to quit because then that itch would come back, or I would look back and say, I'm too old now
Yeah.
and I can't, and that sucks, you know? It's not like you're not confused. Like if you were somebody that was like, I'm gonna make a living as a professional bodybuilder, I'd be like, hey bro, I gotta be really honest with you right now.
Yeah.
No. You know
I
what I
had a
mean?
client who tried to quit his job after he had a career. He was like early 20s, and he's like, dude, I'm going in tomorrow and put my 2 weeks in. And I was like, what do you mean you're putting your 2 weeks in? He's like, I'm going to be a bodybuilder. I'm going to do bodybuilding full time. I was like, buddy, I was like, you're 5'9", 155 pounds, natural, and you do not follow your diet or training program, and you've never competed. I was like, if you quit your job, I'm going to drop you as a client because you're not going to blame me because you're not going to, this is not your future, my friend.
Yeah.
I was like, I've seen a few Nick Walkers. You're not Nick Walker, bro. Like, please don't do this. And
Right.
the kicker, he canceled after that, right? Because he quit his job because he went into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
You
Yeah.
cannot help delusional people.
No. And there's a lot of that.
You might do good as a bodybuilder. I think everybody on here has done very well in bodybuilding. I mean, there's levels to it. I'm not a pro. Nobody else here is a pro. Dusty, you're a pro, but there's levels to it, right? We've all done well, but I think we've all kind of realized, like, for me, my moment was, Brian Jones, Lord Jones, like works with Cuban, like Manny. My moment when I realized that like this was not going to be my future a couple of years ago, I was posing with Brian in the posing room as Fitness One. And I remember we both did like, we just did our front relax pose. We did a front double bicep. And I remember like he was in his front relax and I looked over and I was like, dude, you're in your off season, right? He's like, yeah, off season. And I was like, I could put two hands around his waist like that. And
Right.
his chest was, no, not kidding. His chest was that big from top to bottom. And I was like, how much do you weigh? And he's like, like 210, 215 right now, bro. And I'm like, dude, I'm like 190. There's no way that this is, I was like, there's no way, dude. I was like, how is this? So it's like, I feel like a lot of these guys need to stand next to some of these higher level pros and like Olympians, because the first time you meet one of these guys or you pose next to like a Brian, it's like, holy shit, yeah, this is not my future. Like, you don't have it in your genetics.
So
Yeah, there's definitely huge lines because you could do that coming up to a third pro tier. You know, I mean, I started training hard when Nikki started competing, and I always train hard, but like with a little more focus, I should say. And by the time I went to the Arnold, my arms are back just under 21 in with some effort. You know what I mean? It's like, so when you go to an event and you're staying and you're killing yourself and you're 7 years deep in this, and I'm telling people I was in a coma 2.5 years ago, and I have not followed a diet since then. Until like her prep, where now I eat 5 whole meals a day. It's like we're not playing the same game, and I'm not the best.
yeah.
That's how much there's levels to this, So it's important for people to understand that. Same thing. I'll tell people like I don't have the best genetics for bodybuilding, and they don't understand that. Obviously, I'm, across the world, yeah, probably like 90th percentile. But what happens is there's something that takes place between 98 and 100 those aren't humans anymore. Like, and that's what people don't see. It's like you don't get it. Like, and that's why I always used to laugh because people would say, "You don't need to train like that, Dusty. I watch Phil Heath train." I'm like, do you think I would look like Phil Heath if I trained like that? Like, I sure wish that were the case because I have to train way harder than him to still not look anywhere near as good as.
Yeah. Got it. So long story short, you guys shit on me again. I have to go get my ass kicked by somebody on stage, and then I can happily quit bodybuilding. Got it.
There you go.
There you go. See, I knew I could figure this out with your guys' help.
Hey, if you want to wake up call Marcel, I can pose next to you, bro. I got you. If you want that. Or you can look at Luis's 19-inch arms. Those are pretty motivating.
Wow, you guys hit all my. You guys know my arms are terrible. You had to bring out the arms. Had to. You couldn't hold yourself back.
Hang on, bro. I'm gonna call real quick, bro. Hang on. What's up, bro? Hold on.
Let me see your calves.
Hey, hey. All right. Keep it respect. PG, please. Okay. There's children that watch this.
Anyway, long story short, Dusty, you were at the Arnold last week, right?
Yes.
And you're going to the Arnold UK this next weekend?
Yep. I go on Wednesday.
All right. Did you see the show live?
No, this one, you've been to too many Arnolds. They
even
offered
watch the
me
show.
6-row seats and I didn't go.
Wow.
That's some,
Yeah, they were like, here.
that's some real life problems.
They literally handed me. They're like, here, do you want to go? And I was like, I'm good. I'm gonna stay home this year.
I'm gonna. I gotta go take a nap real quick.
Well, that was my 17th Arnold. So
Fuck. All right. Well, we were gonna ask you if it looked any different in person than it did on the live stream that we had here.
you have to get Scott on to ask that because he took one of the seats. So
There you go.
All right. Before we let you go, we want to get your prediction on Arnold UK. Who's winning it? 3, 2, 1, go.
are they all still going? Because it'll be the same order then. Is Hottie going?
I think he's pending so far.
If Hottie's
loading.
If Hottie's going, he's winning. The gap between, I think Hottie's the best bodybuilder in the world right now.
Oh yeah.
So, what he brought there is not going to change. I think that obviously Samson will be in second again. And then from there, it could go many, many ways. I think that it's very clear that Akeem figured something out between Friday and Saturday. So I look forward to seeing him bring it. I talked to James. We did a podcast with him. I don't know if you guys saw that, but he kind of figured out something in reverse from Friday to Saturday.
Yeah.
So he'll be bringing something. But yeah, chances are your top 5 are going to stay exactly where they were.
Okay. So since you're part of the bodybuilding Illuminati, who's Samson's new coach?
His wife.
All right. Let's say that was one of the guesses we had.
No, that's it. They're doing it themselves for real.
Okay. You guys got any other questions for Dusty, Louis, Derek?
Not necessarily. Yeah, I
Cool.
think so. It's probably one of our best podcasts, man, for sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, we appreciate.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you coming on, man. It was definitely a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience coming from you. I was telling them when you stepped out for a second that I really love the part where you talk about the half effort in 2 different fields and expecting to be great in either one. I feel like that's always been one of my downfalls until maybe the last 2 years. I always kind of gave bodybuilding. I thought I was giving it full effort, but then on the weekends, on downtime, I was doing other things that definitely didn't benefit me.
Right.
It's just good to hear. It's like, how was I expecting to do anything if I'm not giving actual 100%?
Awesome.
What are the things where you're doing on the weekends, Luis?
Recreational stuff.
I think he was playing softball is what he means, recreation.
Yeah,
I was donating my time at the church.
There you go.
All right, you guys. Well, I'm super depressed after this one. You guys crashed my life multiple times. I'm gonna go work out my arms for the next week. So make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you guys follow Dusty. I'm sure you guys already do. Dusty, anything you want to plug?
Oh yeah, real quick.
No.
Dusty, how do we let's say I'm a bodybuilding competitor or I want to get in shape. How do I contact you? What do you offer? Pitch us what you got to sell. I need Dusty. What does Dusty provide? How do I
biggest thing is just my email. It's hard to remember. It's dusty@dustyhanshaw.com. So email me there. If not, obviously Instagram is a route. I still check all of my inbox there. So just Dusty Hanshaw 08 is my tag there. And then the big one for me is just remember Mutant. If you guys ever buzz into IamMutant.com, code Dusty20 will get you 20% off everything on the website.
Very nice.
Awesome.
Nice. Do you know how stupid I felt when I asked you for your email and you were like, oh, it's Dusty@DustyHanshaw.com, and I'm like, fuck. Well,
I thought it was funnier that you messaged me since you have my phone number.
Listen, I did. Here's me. I'm like, I'm not gonna hit his phone line like that. Maybe he's busy doing other shit. Maybe he's doing big dog stuff. I'm just a little dog.
Dude, that's hysterical. Yeah,
No,
that's
he
like one of
cornered
those
you. He did
deals.
it on purpose.
What's
So
that?
he would,
Yeah,
so
but
he would see when you see it, and then he can call you
yeah,
out on it.
yeah. I was like, it did hit me though. I was like, text is faster. That's weird.
He wants those red receipts, bro. He's like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
sit here and wait until he sees it so he can't fucking flake on us.
No, the
Yeah,
coolest fucking
you-
story that I have about Dusty before we head off, it's like 3 seconds. Coolest fucking story. I haven't talked to the guy in probably over a year at that point. Easily over a year. Like we've had like on a Facebook Instagram interaction here and there, but I haven't talked to this guy probably way over a year. It's the morning of my show, not this one. I think it was the previous one that I did. Fucking wake up and the first text I get is from Dusty. He's just fucking, a nice little fucking paragraph of how I'm the shit and I'm gonna kill this. And I'm like, this is fucking cool. This was good.
and you did.
I
You
did.
did win.
I did win. Yeah, I did. I did win, but yeah, that's the type of dude Dusty is. So if you guys want to get coached by him, he's your guy. Plug his mutant codes, use the supplements. They're good. I've used them. So if you don't want to take Dusty's word for it, since he's a liar, then take my
True.
word for it. All right. All right. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks, Dusty.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Dusty.